Oh, he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open. His head wide open. Cracked open in the face.
Hey, what's going on guys, it's MarioMan2100 back again with another video, and it's time for my E3 2019 predictions. I almost said 2018, a little bit earlier when I tried to record this video, so yeah, 2019 still hasn't set in for me. It's been 6 months. So I did get a haircut recently, did shave my beard down a little bit, but it has grown back. It's been about a week and a bit. But it's June 5th at the moment. We're going to get some more news on Pokemon today, later today, after I think 11 o'clock my time. So at the time of this recording, it's Wednesday, but this will probably be up Friday, so we'll know what news Pokemon has when it comes to Sword and Shield with the Direct. But yeah, it's just the week before E3. It's about 5-6 days away now, which is good. So I wrote down while I was at work on one of my breaks. So I was just going through a predictions list of a few things. So I have a bunch of notes on games from conferences that might be shown up, that might show up at E3. So without further ado, and I won't get too sidetracked with this list in front of me, I might dive into detail with some of the games, but not necessarily too much, because at least it'll give me a timeline just to go through normally. So first off, Microsoft. Basically, EA, I know, has their own little things, but I don't think they have a press conference this year, and Sony doesn't either, which we've known about for about half a year now. So that's going to be feeling a bit weird. But Microsoft's one of the first big ones, if not the one of only two big ones technically, because I mean you can say Bethesda and Ubisoft, that sort of thing, and like the PC gaming show, but realistically it's Microsoft and Nintendo's show this year, which is really weird. But anyway, let's get into the list. So the first thing I have is Halo Infinite. We're going to see more on that. Whether we'll know whether it's a sequel to Halo 5, so it might be Halo 6, or they've said that it's the next Halo, but we don't know necessarily if it is Halo 6 or just like Halo 3 ODST was for the next game in the lineup when it comes to that series before Halo 4 came out. So we don't know exactly what that game is going to entail, but we'll probably see more of it this year. And actually confirm whereabouts in the timeline it is. Whether it's a reimagining of the first game, which is weird because Modern Warfare is doing the same thing, but anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later. So the next thing is Gears 5. Gears of War 5 is going to get more presence, and I mean, I think it's also at I believe it's at E3 Coliseum as well, so we're going to probably get more information, if not during the press conference, which I'm sure they're probably going to, just because of, shareholders and stock investors and stuff like that. But we're probably going to get more information on top of what we already get in the press conference at E3 Coliseum, and I can say that for a couple of other games later on as well. So yeah, so we're going to see more of that. Probably going to see some gameplay. Might get a release date. I don't know. Just because I'm not around with Xbox and Microsoft these days. It's been the Xbox 360, and that's it for me. Because the Xbox One, especially at launch, didn't interest me, and still kind of doesn't. Like most of the exclusives are okay. Like Halo, I'm missing out on because I actually do like that series. I love playing Halo 3 and Halo Reach, and to a lesser extent Halo 4, but I mean that was still a good game. I wouldn't say it was spectacular, but I still had fun with the series in general. And I do have Halo Anniversary for the Xbox 360, but I haven't exactly played that game yet. So yeah, I'll be getting to that sometime soon in the future. But we'll see how we go. So my next thing on my list is a rare IP. We're basically talking about things like Banjo, for example. I mean, we technically already have like my next point is Battletoads. That's technically a rare IP, I guess. We're definitely going to be seeing more of Battletoads. Probably actually going to see some gameplay and see how good of a beat 'em up it is. In general, but a rare IP, I think we're seeing more and more on Banjo, and whether it's a new game or something completely different that I'm going to get into a little bit later in the video is to be seen, but there's definitely a lot of indicators right now that something Banjo related is going to happen during this E3, which is not a bad thing. I mean, we haven't seen Banjo-Kazooie since, like, what, Nuts and Bolts actually came out, like, was announced and came out, so that was, like, what, 10 years ago? So, other than, Rare Replay, it's, like, the only time that Banjo's really been brought up. Like, Conker's been brought up a bunch of times with, like, that Project Spark game that's now defunct and that sort of thing, but, yeah, so it's kind of weird in that regard that we're getting more news on Banjo-Kazooie, but then again, Ukulele finally coming out and being what I hear is a moderate success, but not really fantastic. Well, I wanted to play it, but no physical release here in Australia for the Switch, which has happened a lot of the time when it comes to the Switch over here. It's like that. Mega Man Legacy Collection, the X Collections. There's a few other games that are not physical, and I'm like, I want physical versions of those games, so if I don't enjoy them, that I don't have to, that I can sell them at some point to somebody who actually might like them. That's the only problem with digital downloads, that you can't do that per se, and that's a bad thing. So my next thing on my list is Call of Duty Modern Warfare footage. We technically got the trailer of that last week, and I know I've put this in Microsoft, and they have done more of a deal with Sony over the last couple of games. I'm not sure if that deal is finished yet. I think that was started with World War II, so I think they're still in that contract of 3 or 4 games exclusive, like exclusively first on PS4. But at some point during E3, I just put it with Microsoft because that was a big press conference, but I think sometime during E3, Call of Duty is going to be brought up. Again, it's going to be brought up in E3 Coliseum. Excuse me. And we're most likely going to see more of it there. I'm kind of not on the train at the moment with Modern Warfare, and I might get in, like, it's just that it feels like Infinity Ward has just given up and stopped trying. And I mean, going back to a series that is successful is not a bad idea. I get the notion behind that, but it just seems like it's a remake of Modern Warfare 1, which personally I thought was the worst of the trilogy. But I say that as a person who's played Modern Warfare 2 and 3 pretty extensively. Not as much as Modern Warfare 2, but definitely Modern Warfare 3. But that's someone playing those 2 games before the first game and actually going back to COD 4 rather than playing it in order of the trilogy. That's just my thoughts on it. To me, it just looks like a game that I might miss. I want to see more of it. I want to give it a fair shot of showing me more gameplay, because I did that, like, I learned this from Infinite Warfare. Like, the last trailer, the story trailer for that was fantastic, and if they started with that trailer, I probably would have picked it up, you know, that plus the zombie stuff that, you know, that they introduced when the game was first getting announced. Like, that was kind of cool, but, yeah, like, and then like maps like Terminal from Modern Warfare 2 made it in that game, and there was a few things, there's a few indicators, plus, you know, Modern Warfare Remastered being a thing as well at the time. They would have got me to play to get the game. It's just that the way that they started showing that game off, it didn't look great. So I'm giving Modern Warfare the benefit of the doubt. Um, that I want to see more from the game and see how it is, especially if I see multiplayer and whether it's going to be something that I want to pick up or something that I don't want to pick up and that sort of thing. But we'll see more of that sometime during E3, because I would think that if it's coming out in October, it'd show up sometime at E3, even though it just got announced. Like, there's no way that Activision is stupid enough to miss out on E3 entirely. You know, I think Sony might do their own thing, but I think in some ways it's going to bite them in the ass a little bit. I mean, Death Stranding has already got a release date and a new trailer, and we've seen gameplay of that finally, but we've seen that last week. But it might overall bite like Sony and the PlayStation brand in the butt a little bit. I don't know how much it will, but it probably will a little bit, just because, you know, E3 is prime for advertising when it comes to games and systems and all that type of stuff. So the last thing on my list for Microsoft specifically, and this is going into like a little bit of EA stuff, it's EA games like FIFA and NBA 2K, all those types of stuff. I expect EA to be there, and I mean, they're doing their little stuff during E3 anyway. Like, they're not having like the EA Play press conference that they usually have each and every single year, but I think they're doing little events and live streams of certain games that they're showing off. But I suspect that since they don't have a press conference, they're going to go back to what they used to do, whereas they would go to Microsoft and Sony, and they'd show off their games there. They show FIFA, they show NBA, you know, all that type of stuff, Madden, and all that, and they'll go into detail over those, even though there's so many differences when really there is only like, it's not really that much of a difference between games anyway. So I'm just going to take a break here for a second, need a breather and a drink, and I'll go back for the rest of the list. So yeah, just stay tuned. Alright, we're back, and it's already been over like 12-13 minutes for the video, so yeah, let's go on to Ubisoft now. So I have a few things here, not many, but we're going to see more of Beyond Good and Evil 2. We might see a release date of that, maybe, but who knows when it comes to that game. That could just be something that just happens. But we'll definitely probably see a trailer of the game, and maybe a release date. Now, the next thing on my list I wrote down, and this is how many Ghost Recon games have come out fairly recently. I wrote down Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is already out, and was out not last year, but maybe the year before. I meant Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which actually, to be fair, out of the Ghost Recon games, at least that trailer was kind of exciting. You know, the guy that plays the Punisher and Withstanding, because that guy looks fantastic in that game. I can't remember his name. John. I always forget his last name. Barenthal? Is that it? I can't remember, but anyway, he's the Marvel's Punisher in the Netflix series in there. We're definitely going to see more of Ghost Recon. That's no doubt. We're probably going to get a release date if we haven't got one already. But we're definitely going to see gameplay. We might get one of those scripted pieces of gameplay where they're like, oh yeah, we're connecting with the gamers. This is how gamers talk and stuff. Like, the gamer speak needs to stop. Like, if you're going to do gamer speak, actually do it proper, like actually make it so it actually is gamer talk. Like, Jesus, it's terrible. Just stop it, unless you're gonna make it a whole lot better. So the next thing is Just Dance. They might open with Just Dance, I don't know, to get it out of the way, but who knows when it comes to Ubisoft. We're going to definitely see some more songs. As for which one might be showcased, I have no idea. I don't usually listen to um, a lot of recent songs. If they start off with like High Hopes from like Panic at the Disco, then I might be interested because that song is good. Like, that's the only kind of recent song that I've listened to in the last few months. So that'd be cool. Unless it's like The Greatest Showman, which I don't know if they would have the money for that, but who knows. I also wrote down Rainbow Six Siege content. I know there's supposed to be, I think, two new operators that have been announced recently. I'm not sure if we've seen gameplay on them yet. And if we haven't, maybe they might show that off at E3. I know they're usually every couple of months that they show off new operators in the games in general. I fell off of Rainbow Six Siege, but I like watching videos from like Achievement Hunter and like the Let's Play channel and all that type of stuff on the game in particular. So I like that. I like that game. It's just I played it, but I had no one to play with, so I kind of dropped off it. And the last thing I got, which is question marks right next to it, is maybe Rayman. I I know Michelle Ansel, who who worked on Rayman Origins Legends, is working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 right now. They might do a Rayman project, who knows? They might announce one is in development at the moment, or early development. Um, but if it isn't anything in particular like that, maybe a re-release of Rayman 2 or a Rayman trilogy on Switch or something. I mean, it's the thing. I mean, the Switch doesn't have Rayman 2 yet, so apparently it's not an actual console yet, because Rayman 2 has been ported to like everything. I think it's even on mobile phones now. So, yeah, I know that's the joke, but it literally is mostly on everything. So it just seems to be the game that's ported from Ubisoft the most, which is weird because I know Rayman 2 is good, but I haven't went back to that game in so long that I've forgotten most of it. But that's it for Ubisoft. I haven't really thought too much outside of that. I think Starlink is done, from what I hear, and I'm not sure if they're going to do like another project like Mario plus Rabbids. So there might be a surprise or two. Who knows? But I'm not 100% sure with Ubisoft because I'm not really interested in their games. I haven't got it down, but Bethesda is probably going to show off a few games. Maybe Elder Scrolls 6. Finally, maybe we might get some Starfield gameplay footage, like early gameplay footage. Doom Eternal is going to be there. It's going to be one of the big games. It's probably going to be Bethesda's biggest game at their press conference, which I'm all excited for because I want to see more of that game. Because Doom 2016, although buying it 2 times, so I'm going to buy it a third time on Switch. It's a game that I've watched all the way through and I've really enjoyed, and I'm happy that the game is back in a good light because Doom 2016 is fantastic, and I can't wait to see more of what Doom Eternal does, grappling hook and all that with standing too, because that looks fantastic. But I can't wait to see more on Doom Eternal. As for other games from them, I would assume they might talk about Wolfenstein Youngblood being on Switch, but I don't know whether the Wolfenstein game would be done yet, considering that Doom is also coming out this year. So yeah, I don't know whether Wolfenstein will come out this year. They might show it off and might tease it to release early next year, maybe in that like Rage 2 type of slot, maybe maybe a month or two beforehand, like earlier in the year, just so they have something, maybe for the end of the fiscal year when it comes to their, you know, quarterly reports and stuff like that on sales and that sort of thing. But Fallout, I wouldn't expect anything really because, 76 being a thing. But yeah, as to what else when it comes to Bethesda, I don't play much of their games, so I don't personally know. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So next thing, Nintendo. So Nintendo has got a fairly hefty list. I think it's probably the biggest list I've got so far, but then again, I am a Nintendo fan. So first thing I wrote down, and this one is going to be very obvious, Smash DLC. Smash Ultimate DLC. The next character is definitely going to be shown off at E3 at some point, whether it's going to be at the tournament or whether it's going to be like during that E3 Direct. I don't know. It's going to be at least one character, I know that for sure. Whether it's going to be two or one, I don't know. They might subtly tease a second character, who knows? It's Nintendo, so I personally, it's not out of the realm of possibility because, well, Lucas was going to drop around E3, and then he dropped with Roy and Ryu in Smash 4, so weirder things have happened, to be fair, especially with a character like as big as Ryu, like the biggest fighting game character of all time, being in Smash Brothers and being shadow dropped with a character whose game hasn't released outside of Japan since it first came out in Japan. Like that is weird. It was so weird. But yeah, so even though yes, it kind of got leaked beforehand with sound clips, we didn't see a trailer for that until like basically the last minute. So who knows when it comes to the Smash DLC? I know there's going to be at least one character, but hopefully there might be two. Who knows when it comes to that? But it's Nintendo, so anything is possible. They're going to talk more about Fire Emblem, Three Houses. I don't think we got a release date for that yet, but I think we will get one this time. They definitely will talk about Fire Emblem in a lot of capacity because that's one of their big games on Switch this year. Yeah, so basically they'll show a lot more gameplay of the game off. They'll probably talk more about the story in that game. More about the factions and like the weapon triangle and all that type of stuff, and a release date most likely, if not a release window, because it's coming up very soon, so they might save the release window for a later Nintendo Direct if it's still a little ways off, like maybe November, which I don't think they might do because the next thing on my list is Pokemon. So, of course, as we know, as I've already said, Pokemon Sword and Shield's Direct comes out tonight from my time when I'm recording this. So, as for what details might be in that Direct, who knows? But they're definitely going to show off some gameplay of Pokemon in some capacity during E3. It just makes a lot of sense. I know Pokemon Company is weird when it comes to things like that, but they've already announced, Pokemon Sleep and all that type of stuff in their little press conference with the Pokemon Company last week, and they've got the Pokemon Direct today, and there's going to be a whole lot of Pokemon stuff just due to the fact that like Detective Pikachu came out in the movies, and I still haven't seen it, but from what I hear, it's pretty damn good. But yeah, so there's a lot of things being announced and a lot of things being thrown around, but we're definitely probably going to get some more Sword and Shield footage from maybe the early stuff in that game, as we have with previous Pokemon games in the past as well. I didn't actually write this down. I'm surprised I didn't. Luigi's Mansion 3, that's most likely going to be shown off, is that it's still coming out this year. That is definitely going to be shown off in some sort of capacity. We're going to see more gameplay of it. Probably going to get a release date. Maybe it depends because if they don't want to announce the release date now, they could do it for another direct, like I said with Fire Emblem. Next thing on my list is Animal Crossing. We're definitely going to see some Animal Crossing. People are going to kill people if people are gonna kill people. Yeah, that makes sense. People are gonna kill other people if Animal Crossing doesn't get shown up in some sort of capacity at E3 time. It's weird because I like that series, but some people are really, 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 really terrible when it comes to that game. It's like, oh, but it's not announced for Switch. Why isn't it announced for Switch yet? And all that type of stuff. When Isabelle was announced for Smash Brothers, it's like, you've got a character from your franchise and another character from your franchise in Smash Brothers. Why aren't you excited that Animal Crossing is getting more representation in one of Nintendo's, if not Nintendo's, biggest franchises of all time? Like, why complain about it? It's the Switch. There's going to be an Animal Crossing game on it. Just calm down. And when it was finally announced, I was like, thank God, now they can shut up. But they won't, because they're like, oh, why is Animal Crossing out now? It's like, why isn't it coming? It's like you've seen it. It's coming in 2019. We're going to see more of that at E3, because people are going to riot if it doesn't show up. And I think Nintendo knows that, so they're going to show off a little bit of that. They're probably going to show off a little bit of what's new. They probably won't show off everything when it comes to Animal Crossing, but yeah, who knows when it comes to that. Let me have a look. Next thing on my list, and this is not necessarily at Nintendo's show, but this could show up anywhere. Sonic 2020, got big question marks on that because the 2020 released game they announced back at I think maybe South by Southwest, if not before, that they're working on a new Sonic game for 2020. As to if we'll see it or not, I'm not 100% sure. That's why I put question marks on it. But I've also put an asterisk as well. Maybe some Team Sonic Racing DLC. That game only just came out a couple of weeks back. It kind of feels like it's a little bit less on content at the moment. But if they do DLC, I hope that they do more DLC tracks and more characters and all that type of stuff. Because I think that the game sold alright. It sold pretty well. I think it was topping the list of games in Europe, which the Sonic franchise hasn't done for a while. I mean, Mania withstanding, of course, but yeah, I think it's topping the charts in Europe, which is weird when it first came out in the first week. So that's weird. But anyway, hold on, I've just got a call. Hold on, just give me a second. Sorry about that. Got a call on my phone. It was bloody driving me nuts. Not important, but anyway. So yeah, so I was talking about Team Sonic Racing DLC. So maybe we'll see more tracks on that. Might see more characters. Maybe some more customization as well. I hope they put a sound test in as well, because that would be great. Because the soundtrack is one of the best things of the game in general, and I mean most Sonic games are like that, but with this game in particular, there are some good tracks. Like, I've already bought 2 tracks from the soundtrack already on iTunes, and I've barely even touched the game, so that's a good indication. So these next few, and this next couple, are a little bit ambiguous, like they're a little bit out of left field, but either a new F-Zero game or a fast racing Neo/RMX sequel type game. I just have a feeling like that type of racing game has to show up at some point, whether it's this year or next year. I feel like the writing's on the wall when it comes to F-Zero. People have been wanting it for so long, me included, because the only one that I've played out of the 3 games is F-Zero X, and I love that game. I hear GX is even better, and I've been looking for a copy of that on GameCube for ages, that I haven't been able to pick one up. But I do want to play that game at some point. Like, I really do want to put the money down and actually buy that game and actually play it, because I hear that is a fantastic game. But F-Zero X, for as basic as it is, compared to GX, that game is fantastic, and I love that game. I played a lot of that game on an emulator, to be fair, yes, which I know is a bad thing, but I'll definitely put the money down on it if it's available on the Wii U eShop. I'm not sure if it is or not, but if it is, I'll buy it, because that game is fantastic. I might even have to buy an N64 and a copy of the game to show how much I like that game, because I will dedicate that much money to playing that game, because that game was fantastic. So yeah, so it could be an F-Zero game, whether it's that or it's going to be another fast racing game. I hear Fast Racing Neo sold alright, and I heard that RMX sold alright as well, and that they are loved by fans. It's not the biggest selling franchise ever, but I don't think it is. It's kind of made by Shinen Entertainment or something like that. I can't remember their name, but I think they're more like an indie type of thing, indie developer. So yeah, we could see another one of those instead of an F-Zero, but I think the writing's on the wall with F-Zero. So whether we see that, and I should actually write that down, but Pikmin 4 got announced ages ago and hasn't shown up yet, so that might be another surprise drop, but who knows. And the next one, a new 2D Metroid game, may be made by Mercury Steam, the guys who did Samus Returns. Now, I put a few hours into that game, I think over 10, and didn't get too far in area, I think it was 2. I got a little bit lost, and I hadn't played the game for a while. At that point, I think I had just gotten the grapple beam in that point in the game, or was on the way to, but I just couldn't play more of it. Which sucks, but I did put the time in to play the game, and I was happy that I did, because that game is pretty good. I like the game. I didn't finish it, but I haven't finished any Metroid game yet. But it definitely improved a lot on Metroid 2, because I played a little bit of Metroid 2. I played a couple of hours of that game, and didn't get very far at all compared to my playthrough on Samus Returns. So that's always a good sign that a remake is much better than the original. In terms of, like, even Samus Returns, I think is almost just as difficult, if not more difficult, than Metroid 2, and I managed to get further. So that's always a good sign. But yeah, I have a feeling like a 2D Metroid needs in some way to fill the gap between now and when Metroid Prime 4 finally gets unveiled, because Retro is working on that, because they would have had to scrap everything and start from scratch with that game in particular. And it's sad to see that. You know, I would have liked to see the concepts of Metroid Prime 4. I know it probably would have looked weird, and obviously with their cancellation, it's not what Nintendo wanted. So I would have liked to see that version of the game pop up, but thankfully, you know, Retro makes some good games. I hear the Prime trilogy is fantastic. I have it on the Wii with the Metroid Prime trilogy, and I have Metroid Prime 3 as a separate disc, but I got that before I got my trilogy version, so that's the only reason why I have that game. But I haven't played those games yet. I want to play them in order. But yeah, I have a feeling a 2D Metroid would perfectly fit well in between the gap that Metroid Prime 4 has given us now, that it'd be good. Whether it'd be on, I would say it would be on Switch. I don't think 3DS is getting anything substantial or anything at all when it comes to games. I think that's finally gone out to pasture. I think now. I think that it's done. A new theme will be showed off for Mario Maker 2. This is most likely going to be at the tournament that they're having, which is really weird. I mean, yeah, okay, you can kind of say with the Nintendo World Championships, that makes somewhat of sense, because it's a lot of different games and all that type of stuff, but it's kind of weird that Splatoon's getting a tournament, which I understand. Smash Brothers is getting a tournament, which it's weird that it's 3-on-3, but that's another thing altogether. But like Mario Maker's also getting one at the same time. I mean, some of those are probably going to be levels that are already made by Nintendo developers. Excuse me. And they're just going to be competing for that, and it's going to be like the World Championships back when they did that for the last the grand finale of that series back in 2015. But it's kind of weird, and it says new themes when they showed it off in the direct a couple of weeks back when they showed off 3D World and they showed off the menu that it was in. They said new themes. That's what it is in the title. And it's like, well, you've only got one theme there. There has to be something else. And I have a feeling that's probably going to be shown off at E3 because that would create some buzz because the game comes out in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah. So again, the writing is on the wall. Basically, something's going to be shown off, and whether it's something going to be like Mario Land 2 or Super Mario Brothers 2, like USA. Who knows? But that'll be cool. You know, either of those would be fine. Even if it's like Super Mario Land, like the original Super Mario Land, like I know it's 8-bit style, but it's like black and white 8-bit style. That'd be fantastic. They didn't look great. So the last thing on the list is Astral Chain and maybe Bayonetta 3. Platinum Games is going to show off something on Astral Chain that's supposed to come out this year. So we're going to see more of that game. The game looks good. I mean, I wasn't as hyped as everybody else, but it's a Platinum game, so of course I'm a little bit more excited and more inclined to buy it because of that. Because I've bought, you know, the Bayonetta franchise in general a couple of times because, you know, buying it on Wii U and then on Switch as well. But speaking of Bayonetta 3, as to whether this will be shown off at E3, they might just want to feature Astral Chain first, then Bayonetta 3 afterwards, because that might come out next year. But we might get a tease of Bayonetta 3, who knows? I mean, Platinum can do anything that they want. It's a Platinum game, it's going to sell. And especially when it comes to Bayonetta, that is a franchise that does sell kind of well, and it sold pretty alright on Wii U, and I think that the Bayonetta 1 plus 2 bundle on Switch also sold really well, so we might get a tease, who knows, you know, Bayonetta is weird and mischievous as Umbra Witch, wouldn't be out of character. So yeah, so that's all for Nintendo. So last thing I got on the list is Square, which I almost forgot Square was a thing, and I wrote this morning. So Square, they're having their own press conference. I think it's before Nintendo. I think it's really around where that Sony slot would usually be when it comes to E3. So things that we're probably going to see: Kingdom Hearts DLC, that Remind DLC that they announced a couple of months back or a month back. That's probably going to be shown off at E3 or going to be talked about more at E3 in some capacity. Haven't been in Kingdom Hearts 3, so I'm pretty close. I'm a little bit ways through San Francisco right now, so I'm at the latter end of the game, but I've been taking it kind of slowly, but I'm starting to ramp up and actually trying to get that game finished now. Because it's been 6 months. I feel like 6 months is enough time for the game, because I was going to do one world, like even I said in the update video a couple of times before, then I was going to take it one world a month, but that was probably going to get me until like September, and especially with this DLC, if it's anything plot related when it comes to the games, I don't want to be spoiled, so I'm going to play as much of the game as I can. I don't want to rush through it, but I'm definitely going to play as much of the game as I can when it comes to this, and probably see this DLC later on, and I'll definitely buy it because Kingdom Hearts I love, and I want to support it, and I want to, of course, if it's story related, so I want to get more out of it, so yeah, so I don't mind shelling out the money to buy DLC for Kingdom Hearts because I love the franchise. Next thing on the list is Dragon Quest XI S and maybe Builders 2. So the Switch version of Dragon Quest XI, Dragon Quest XI S, which is the I would say in some ways it's the Game of the Year edition, but it's like the extra bonus edition. It's like the re-release that they usually do, like Mortal Kombat does with like Injustice 2 having their Legendary Edition and Mortal Kombat having XL. It's that type of thing. It's like the Persona 5 Royale and Persona 4 Golden version of Dragon Quest. In a lot of ways, it's a better re-enhanced version. That's probably going to be shown off because that's going to be shown off in the West at some point, and maybe Builders 2 because I think Builders 2 is out in Japan, if not on the way, and they haven't shown it off for the West yet. So we might get that as well. Next thing on the list is Final Fantasy VII Remake. We got the trailer with that last month in the State of Play. And it's probably one of the biggest things during the month that we actually got substantial footage and news on. And they said more stuff in June to be announced. And most likely that's going to be E3. That just makes a whole lot of sense. If Square's having a press conference, that is the big game that they're going to show off. It just seems like like I've already used the term and phrase couple of times already, but the writing's on the wall of Final Fantasy VII Remake. They need to show more of that gameplay on the game off because they don't have Kingdom Hearts 3, they don't have Final Fantasy 15. This game is the next big one that's on the list, so that's going to be shown off. And I wrote down with possible release date for the first episode because it's just seeming like there's more and more indications, especially with what Tetsuya Nomura said after it was shown off in the State of Play. It's seeming like the game, at least the first episode, is getting closer and closer to release. Like, the way that they're talking about the game, it's like as if it's coming out in the next couple of months, which, for the first episode, if it's coming out in a couple of months, that is exciting and probably going to be one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing, at E3 if that gets announced. If a release date for the first episode gets announced at E3, that's it. E3 is just going to erupt. It's going to be Final Fantasy VII is going to be trending on Twitter for like 3 days in a row because of the release date. Because that many people are going to be excited, myself included, and also my dad because my dad loves Final Fantasy VII. And when I seen the trailer, I shared it on my Facebook page. And a couple of hours later, after he came home from work, he seen my post and was like, what, and got excited. And, yeah, he got really excited. So, if a release date for the first episode gets announced, that's it. All hell's going to break loose then, and that's it, It's going to be game over at that point. So we're probably going to see more on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Babylon's Fall, that Platinum game that Square Enix is also developing, is also going to get talked about as well. Might get some more might actually get some gameplay on it and some more context onto what the game is like. I didn't write this down, but Marvel's Avengers project that they're working on, that's already been confirmed that's going to be talked about at their press conference. They're pretty much advertising their press conference with that game. So obviously that's going to happen. And so is Babylon's Fall. And the last thing I got on the list is Bravely Third. And I've got a fucking another phone call. God damn it. I get close to the end of the video and a telemarketer just decides it wants to call. Fucking hell. And like I said, the last game on the list is Bravely Third. And I have this as question marks because they have already kind of teased that a third Bravely game is being worked on. But with all this stuff being talked about at E3 possibly, especially with Square, I don't know whether it'll show up now or show up next year. But as far as I know, Bravely Third is in development, so they might tease it, who knows, but when it comes to them, I don't know. I was going to write down the Western franchises that Square has, but I think Hitman 2, I think is already out. It might get some DLC, who knows. Tomb Raider just came out last year with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, so that came out unless there's DLC being announced, but I kind of don't see that happening. The only one that I can see that might have a new game is Deus Ex, but I haven't played that franchise, so I don't know if it's good. I hear it's good, but I haven't played it myself, so I personally don't know. And yeah, that's about it. You know, like there's nothing really that comes to mind when it comes to Square and basically everybody else. I think most of that list is done. So I think that's my E3 2019 predictions. This video is going to be probably huge, considering it's in a couple of parts already. This video is probably going to go on for like 40-45 minutes. I'm not even gonna lie, because it's probably going to be at least that. Because I think the first part of the footage that I recorded for was already 12 minutes, and I talked about what, like one press conference, and that was Microsoft. So yeah, this video is going to be huge. So before it gets any longer, thank you guys so much for watching this video and my E3 2019 predictions. We'll see in a week if, well, actually less than, yeah, basically a week, if all these predictions or most of these predictions come true. There's going to be some far outliers, but we'll see how we go, because E3 is ramping up and it's always exciting this time of year, so it's always good to ramp things up a little bit and expect a little bit, not expect too much, of course, because especially when it comes to things like F-Zero and things like Rayman, all that type of stuff, there might be too much to hope for, but we're definitely going to see some good games at least. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video and my E3 2019 predictions. Let's go E3 2019, I guess, because we're not going to see as much from Sony at all, unless they do a State of Play around the same time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. This has been Mario Man 2100. You guys have a great day night, and of course, take care.